Hey, everybody. Thanks so much for joining us right here on the Right View Ladies Tea. Tonight, we're joined by our friend, contributing writer for the Media Research Center TV, Stephanie Hamill, and director of outreach for PragerU Kids. Welcome back, Jill Simonian. Jill and Stephanie, thanks for joining us tonight. I love having both of you. A lot of good insights from a mom to be for you, Stephanie, coming in real hot sometime very soon. Couple of weeks left. How many?
About 5 weeks, so a little bit over a month.
Yeah, okay, so a little over a month. We got to get our country and our world put back together because Stephanie's having a baby. And we can't bring another baby into the world where things are so crazy. One of the crazy things going on right now, apparently it could be time to cancel the Pope. I'm sure a lot of folks on the left are talking about this. Pope Francis was in Hungary recently, and he slammed gender ideology and abortion during his visit. So, of course, raised a lot of eyebrows because as sane as some of these things should be for the Pope to talk about, again, protecting life and, biologically speaking, a man versus a woman. Apparently, these are hot topics now. Here's what the Pope said. This is the baneful path taken by forms of ideological colonization that would cancel differences, as in the case of the so-called gender theory, or that would place before the reality of life reductive concepts of freedom, for example, by vaunting as progress a senseless right to abortion, which is always a tragic defeat. Jill, do you think Pope Francis is going to hear about this from our Catholic president, Joe Biden? Because we know Joe Biden agrees with, all of the above.
Right. Yeah. That's something to think about for sure. Anything that comes out of the White House at this moment in time, nothing surprises me anymore. And I'm really curious to see how this is going to go down. I'm a mom. I have 2 elementary school kids. My children do actually go to a Catholic school. So I am very pleased to see that the Pope here is not caving, because in so many instances, particularly here in Southern California, a lot of the Catholic schools are actually caving to woke ideology. Wow. And it's super disturbing. And it's insane. So I'm happy to see that he's actually speaking truth and reason and virtue according to the Bible, according to Catholic faith. But yeah, we'll see. This definitely puts President Biden, I think, in a very, interesting situation.
Mm-hmm. Well, isn't that right that Nancy Pelosi could not take communion? He wouldn't give her communion, right? The Pope, whenever she went to visit the Vatican, which is kind of interesting. If you look at what Nancy Pelosi and folks on the left, Stephanie, have stood for as it relates to these particular topics, abortion and, I look just the kids in and of themselves, what we're teaching our children with this gender ideology. He, I guess, did it based on the abortion. But I'm kind of proud of him, too. And I'm kind of surprised. Is that crazy, Stephanie, that we say we're surprised that the Pope would come out and say something like this? But I think this kind of speaks to where we are in the world as a whole.
Sadly to say, I am surprised. And that's because we've seen Pope Francis be so political over the years. I remember him coming out and speaking out against your father-in-law for policies that he was promoting here in the United States. And I'm like, well, why is Pope Francis weighing in on this? But then he would stay very silent on important issues in regards to the teachings of the Bible and important social and other issues that actually mattered, that he would be relevant to speak on. I do remember when he went after President Trump for the border wall. Well, we have the right to protect our border here in America. You live in the Vatican. You got some big walls at the Vatican. So I don't even
talk about security. Exactly. I mean, it's so true. The interesting thing to me, and maybe I got off on a tangent whenever I was looking at this, but if you look at Hungary, where he was, the abortion situation there is that you can have an abortion there up to 12 weeks, up to 24 weeks under certain conditions, but a woman is first required to hear the fetal heartbeat before, I guess, deciding that she wants to go through with an abortion, which it's kind of an interesting concept, Jill, because I think a lot of people would argue that now that technology has improved, it has probably made some people change their mind whenever you go in and you listen to what is a real heartbeat, a real living being inside your body before you make a decision like this. It's interesting to me that that is something that happens in Hungary. And Hungary actually is doing something that we may end up doing here in America, which is that they're trying to incentivize increasing the birth rate. I'm sure people remember hearing that we're probably on a bad trajectory as it relates to, our spot, at least here in America, with our birth rate in decline. And in Hungary, they're trying to boost the birth rates by offering $33,000 to a married couple who has 3 kids. Very interesting concepts over there in Hungary. What do you think?
Yeah, I that's part of the article that actually caught me by surprise, because I had no idea that even, was the situation over there. But going back to what you were saying about hearing the heartbeat, I can't help but think of, I think it was maybe a few months ago when, I can't remember if it was senators or representatives, forgive my lapse in memory, but we had government officials accusing medical institutions of falsifying heartbeats.
Oh, yeah.
Women would go in to get ultrasounds. And, I read that article about Hungary requiring women to hear the heartbeat. And I think it is commendable. I think it's the right thing to do. I think that we need to return to a time when people thought logically and truthfully, and we behaved as human beings and not these ideological robots who subscribe to any which lie is thrown at us. So that was, that was positive for me to read in that article.
Yeah, I was very interested in that too. And I think it's probably something that we should consider here. I think that I don't see how that could be a bad idea, letting you hear the heartbeat first. I mean, might change some minds, might save some lives. Who knows? Stephanie, since you are the pregnant lady on the show tonight, I'm going to go to you on this birth rate decline. In the 1950s, I found this also fascinating. The average woman would birth 4 children in her lifetime. Today, it's down to 2. So we have, since 1950 to now, this study is probably done 22 or 21, 70 years later, it is cut in half. And the problem is that at some point, our society will have far more elderly than we have able-bodied, like working youth in this country to kind of take care of us when we all get old. And it is a bit of a concern. You see that Elon Musk, of all people, is like, I think he's got 10 kids, because he's talked about this too. No one really talks about this, but we would get to a place apparently in like 2064 where we would max out our population. And then it's kind of a steep decline from then on out. And then I don't know what's going to happen to us. You better have a lot more babies, Stephanie.
I hope that I can. We'll see. I'm a little bit on the older side, unfortunately. And it's because I grew up in a generation where there was a lot of like anti-family sentiment in the country. And, I grew up in a time where people were like, oh, you don't need no man. You got to be a career woman. You got to focus on your job. You can't rely on anyone else, which I'm totally for. But, I'm a little bit older, and I see some of the friends that I went to high school with and college with, they started very, very early. And part of me regrets waiting so long to start my family. And, I really have enjoyed my career, but starting my family and having a baby that I'm carrying right now, I mean, that experience can't be replaced with work. And so we've been kind of brainwashed into thinking that we just need to be robots and working for the man. And I'm glad that we are having these conversations now. And I hope to help speak out to young women who are maybe afraid to start a family because they think that they can't do everything. And it is tough. And it does require effort and finding some sort of balance. But yeah, I mean, I don't know if you guys grew up in that era where, people were suggesting basically, you got to wait on kids, wait on family, wait on this and that. And, I really think that was a mistake. And you're right. We have an issue with population, and the Democrats' plan is just to like open the borders and just let everyone in. I mean, that's not the proper solution for population in this country. So, I mean, it's just kind of a bizarre thing that they're so anti-family. I can't think of anything more important than having family. I think back in the days when I was working in DC, not dating, totally single, I'd go to work like 16 hours a day and then come home alone. What type of life is that? That's not a great life.
But you're right. By the way, I was one of those women that you're talking about, Stephanie. Honestly, my husband and I got married. I think I was 32 when we got married, 31. And we, my husband's like, all right, like, let's get going on having a baby. And I was like, wait a minute, like, I have so much time. I need to have my career. Like, it's exactly what you're saying, because I really had been conditioned in a way to think that having a kid was equated with like the end of everything, like your whole life. And there's no doubt your life changes. There's no doubt that things are never the same, but they're never the same in the greatest possible way. And he really had to get on me and say, like, I mean, not literally, but I guess you could say that. Sorry, I digress. But he really had to say, like, it's time to go. We have to start having a family. And I'm so happy he did. He'll love to hear this, by the way. He'll say, another thing I'm right about. But Jill, I think Stephanie does have a point with all of this. We are conditioning future generations to do the same thing. And I know with some of my friends who probably are a lot like Stephanie, probably a lot like I was, they all said, I'm going to wait. I'll just wait. I'll get further in my career. I'm going to wait. And now a lot of them have found themselves in a place, sadly, where they're desperately trying to get pregnant, to start a family, and many of them cannot. And I wish that we did have better, I don't even know, examples out there as to young women who can have a family and you can have a life on the other side of that. Why are we not shown that as an option anymore?
It's so true. And anyone who's watching the video, as opposed to maybe listening to it on the podcast now, I'm sitting here nodding through both of your, sharing of your stories, because I was the exact same way. Petrified. How
sad is that? We all had the same experience. This is terrible.
But it is a true testament to the lies of modern feminism that have really infiltrated all areas of our lives, right? Between magazines, television, movies, podcasts, you name it. There was an attack on motherhood. And now I do see that there is a turning point, because I have noticed a lot of young women on Instagram, online, who I follow, saying, hey, I was told this grand lie, and earth to all women out there, like, alert, alert, it is a lie. Do not fall for the lie. So I do think that we're seeing a turn in the appreciation of what a mother is, whether you are a stay-at-home mom or a working mom. There is more of an appreciation to honor mothers. And I think, one thing that we try to do at PragerU Kids is to constantly reinforce the family, reinforce that mothers are special, that fathers are special, that having a family is special, and those traditional values, because our schools and our culture have completely abandoned it. And now we're seeing the effects. Now we're in a place in society where people are looking around and saying, oh, we're going to have a population problem. I wonder why. It's because you've been forcing lies down everyone's throat, particularly when it comes to motherhood.
It is so true. It's so crazy to me that we all kind of experienced the same thing. And maybe we're going to see a turning point, like you're saying, Jill, because we have more access to see what it's actually like. And it's not like a terrifying idea of you're locked down forever and that's it. It's over. Who was the comedian, by the way, the woman who doesn't have kids and tried to like mock all of us?
Chelsea Handler.
Yes. Okay. So, every mom saw her video as to like what she does in a day. And I was like, this is so stupid. First of all, there's nothing more badass to me than seeing a mom of one kid, of 5, of 10. I don't care how many kids you have. If you have one, that's a lot. And going out there and doing it, whatever it is you do on a daily basis, you're a badass. And I know that now because I'm on the other side of it. And I just wish somebody had told me up front, this is not going to be what they have made it out to seem. It's very different. I wouldn't change any of it for anything in the entire world. And I think every parent out there feels that way. But you know what, Stephanie, good for you for you're the one on this podcast. I'll tell you what, we're really excited. You're pregnant. You have a couple weeks to go. You're in the home stretch. So you're going to get there soon. Godspeed. We know what that last 5 weeks is like.
So I'm going to be busy in the next few years. That's my goal. We'll see what happens.
Well, keep us updated. But speaking of kids and schools, Jill, I got to play really quickly for our audience a clip of you. Before we show the clip, just introduce the clip and tell us what we're going to see.
So I believe we're going to see a recent school board meeting for the Glendale Unified School District in Southern California. I went and spoke at it to support a group of parents who were really trying to get more transparency in education for their children from teachers who were hiding certain things allegedly behind parents' backs. So I think you're going to see a part of what I said at the school board meeting.
Yes, I think that's right. All right, let's check out the clip real quick.
Right here, this school board failing to educate children in knowledge, and the failure of this school board to act as an elected watchdog over the teachers, educators, administrators who might be compromised in instead delivering personal ideologies when they should in fact be teaching children reading and math to raise to grade level. That's the root issue.
Okay, so Jill, obviously you were very articulate in your delivery here, and I think you made your point very clear. You could hear in the background, by the way, all the people kind of cheering you on. First of all, is this something standard for you? Are you going out often and speaking at these school board meetings? Because we know that you may be labeled as a domestic terrorist if you do this sort of thing too often by the Biden administration. I mean, I wish I was joking, but we all know it's true.
Right.
Is this something standard for you? Tell me about the whole thing and what happened afterwards.
So in a nutshell, when my children were in our local public school, which was not Glendale Unified School District for the record. But when my children were in our former public school, before I pulled them out, I would go to school board meetings frequently and talk. And I will say that the community cancellation was pretty much instant. And that was a tough lesson that I had to learn. And it got me really frustrated because I realized how many people refuse to speak up, even though they're chattering behind the scenes about, we agree with you, we're with you, we need to be reasonable. Very, very few people speak up. This school board meeting that I ended up going to a little over a week ago was because I had personal ties with many of the parents who are in this particular school district. And what was happening there over the past 2 years, where a very large group of parents have been continually going to the school board meeting, really asking for transparency and accountability for educators who are allegedly hiding gender identity issues from parents, from school records. You know, there's a whole laundry list that I'm not going to get into, but these parents have been going and speaking, and I wanted to support them. So in the video, I flat out said, this has nothing to do with hating that, because they were accusing parents of hating the LGBTQ community. I said, this has nothing to do with hating an LGBTQ community. Nobody hates the gay community. What this has to do with is inappropriate lessons inside of a classroom or going on behind closed doors in the district that are happening that parents are not aware of. And I said that the school board, I reminded them, is an elected body to hold educators accountable. And that's something that we try to remind all of our parents about at PragerU Kids, that we as parents have the fundamental right to direct the upbringing and education of our children. So when we go as parents to speak, yes, we will get canceled and shut down in the community, but it's our responsibility. And I did find out 5 days later that I was essentially canceled again from the Glendale Unified School District because they had enlisted me prior to MC an event that is happening in a few weeks. And they suddenly just, canceled me. They said, there's been a miscommunication. We don't need you to MC that event that's happening 2 weeks from now. We made a mistake. And, it's like, let's be real. There was no communication. You didn't like that I was supporting parents. You canceled me. And this happens all too often across the country.
Wow. I mean, by the way, can I just say good for you for getting out there and standing up? I'm sure the parents in this, whose children actually go to these schools are probably grateful that somebody's speaking up. But I mean, is anything going to happen, Jill, on the other end of this? Because that's always the question. People are like, well, what is it worth? If I know that there's something that will ultimately change, then maybe I would go out on a limb. And your kids didn't even go to these schools, like you said. Has anything happened on that front or no?
I am very interested to continue following this because I don't know of anything that has immediately happened at the time of our conversation here. I don't know if anything has been, if any of the teachers in question have been held accountable by the school district. But what I did learn, very interesting, was that the two of the, how can I say this to be clear? Two of the board members for the organization that I was emceeing the event for. The organization that I was going to host the event for was for the Glendale Educational Foundation, which is a nonprofit that raises money to donate to the school district. So I have since found out that since I spoke out, since the organization canceled my hosting services, two of the board members from that educational foundation were completely disgusted with the censorship, apparently, and resigned. And these were allegedly long-standing board members who have supported this organization, who have really, driven much of its success to contributing to the school district to try and stay involved in the school district. And they said, that's it. We've had it. We have had it with the censorship. We have had it with our education, school districts being compromised. We are out. And what's happening is it's tragic because now those good people are out. But it also, I think, is very positive because these school districts are now losing people. They are losing quality people who used to care about their system. They are losing the people who actually supported monetarily. So I think the answer is not to stop speaking up, but the answer is to continue speaking up, even though there might be losses along the way.
Yeah. Well, again, great for great on you for doing that. And I think we need to do more of that. Stephanie, I wonder from your perspective, and you're about to become a mom, and obviously your child will be a ways away from entering school, but this is of importance to, it should be all Americans, because these are our future generations who are, being raised right now and in school. And we know the failure of the educational system as it relates to our kids after COVID. And, the fact that, as Jill pointed out in her video there, so many kids are not actually learning how to read, how to write, how to do math, learning actual science. They're being indoctrinated with all this ideology. For the upcoming elections, though, I wonder how big a role something like this sort of thing will play in people's decision to get out and vote and for whom they vote, because we all think about Virginia, Glenn Youngkin, the way that swung things, because parents were tired of feeling like they had no rights when it came to what their kids were learning. Do you think this will play into 2024 at all?
I absolutely think it will play a role. And I'm glad that you brought up Virginia. And it wasn't just parents who were activated by what was going on. It was taxpayers and people in the community who were concerned about what's going on in the schools. And I don't want to trash every teacher or every school board member. There are obviously very good teachers and school board members who are out there who have an issue with what's going on. But unfortunately, this indoctrination is happening from coast to coast. I mean, I even see some of the liberal indoctrination examples of it happening in the schools in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, which is very, very conservative area. And as you pointed out, I'm expecting, and some of the discussions my husband and I have, is the fact that we're going to have to send our kid to school. Maybe not. I don't think so. We're probably going to have to do private school, or I'm going to have to learn how to do homeschooling. Yeah. Because we're not going to let these lunatics indoctrinate our young children, if we have more kids, or our child. It is just so unfair. And sadly, so many parents are so busy and consumed with their day-to-day stuff at like work and just trying to make ends meet that they can't be there full time for their kids. And so you would expect for the schools to complete their mission, which is to teach them the basics, as you pointed out, math, reading, science, all the things that matter. But unfortunately, we're seeing so many examples of that not going on. So again, Jillian, we appreciate your efforts. We appreciate the content that you guys produce at PragerU. I mean, it's not even just the schools. It's the stuff that kids are watching on their iPads or on TV, the cartoons, Disney. I mean, it's coming from everywhere. Yeah.
And as it relates to schools, by the way, Stephanie, you're not wrong. I live in Florida, We know that Florida is a very red, very free state. However, I was out this weekend and I was with a group of friends who, some of them have siblings and parents who are teachers in one of the local schools here. And they started telling me about these situations happening right here where I live, where we're talking like 7th, 8th, and 9th graders. These kids are identifying as furries, and no joke. And for people who don't know what that is, that means that your kid could all of a sudden come home and say, I'm going to identify now as a cat. And they actually have to, in a classroom here in my backyard, keep a litter box in the room. I'm not kidding. For this kid or kids to utilize. And I was like, well, wait a minute. Are they actually like using it? Are they just digging around in there? Think of the lunacy of what we are talking about here. It's everywhere. It is pervasive throughout the country. And I'm going to give a shout out to Paul Stanley. Some people may know him better from KISS. Paul Stanley, for whatever reason, decided to come out and tweet about this. And I think that's very brave because, ladies, we know the second you start talking about these issues, they'll cancel you in a heartbeat. They love to do it. I'm just going to read really quickly what Paul Stanley had to say in general about all this stuff. He said there's a big difference between teaching acceptance and normalizing and even encouraging participation in a lifestyle that confuses young children into questioning their sexual identification as though some sort of game, and then parents in some cases allow it. There are individuals who, as adults, may decide reassignment is their needed choice, but turning this into a game or parents normalizing it as some sort of natural alternative, or believing that because a little boy likes to play dress up in his sister's clothes or a girl in her brother's, we should lead them steps further down a path that's far from the innocence of what they are doing. So, I mean, what he's saying here seems very basic, Jill, very obvious to a lot of people. But I think there are some parents out there, no doubt, who encourage this sort of behavior. I got to tell you, if one of my kids came home and told me they were identifying as a furry and they needed a litter box in the classroom, that's where I got to draw some kind of line. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you have common sense and you're reasonable and you know what is real and what is not. Not everyone knows that anymore, Lara. We forget
Sadly.
that. We're living in reality. Other people are not. I saw the tweet from Paul Stanley and I immediately, what does KISS do? What's the rock and roll symbol? I can't even remember. Like, I was like, yes to the rock and roll. Yes, yeah. Right here. Yeah. Yes. I was so happy that he shared this. And my prayer is that more, especially, think of the rock and roll lifestyle. Wild, right? I mean, there are no boundaries on a rock and roll lifestyle. Mm-hmm. And for a rock and roller to say what he said based in logic and reason, my prayer is that more people follow and more people speak out, because that's what it's going to take. It's going to take the celebrities that have traditionally kept their mouths zipped. It's going to take the celebrities to be able to just, clear all of this out, I think. They certainly have a lot of influence. Mm-hmm. There's no doubt about it. Stephanie, some people attacked him, and the reason that they were very upset about this is because, as we know, members of KISS dress up and they wear makeup. I mean, I was like, really? That's the problem that you have here?
Costume makeup. It's totally different.
Thank you. Yeah, very different. But I do think that he's one of probably many people in Hollywood, the music industry, who feel this way. I hope that it does encourage, as Jill said, more people to come out and speak this sort of way, because if we can't say obvious things like he's saying here, I don't know what ultimately happens. All of this will just go totally out of control. And there are so many studies that show that statistically it's impossible, the number of kids who have come out in the past several years as transgender. If you look at the gradual increase of any sort of natural phenomenon, it just spikes as it comes to the past couple of years. None of this is natural or normal. And in so many ways, our society is definitely encouraging it.
Well, not natural, not normal, and harmful for young people. Yeah. And again, if you're an adult and you want to make decisions for your body and identify as whatever you want, you can. Okay. I don't recommend it, but you can do that. But the fact that we have adults who are ushering children down this very dangerous path and not actually solving the root issue of their potential problems if they have, some sort of issue. But I appreciate, so I'm always torn on the celebrity stuff. Like part of me is like, you're a celebrity, why don't you do your movies? Or if you're an athlete, why don't you play your sport? I don't want to hear where you stand politically. But unfortunately, we're at this point in time where the celebrities all regurgitate the left's talking points and all the same policies and shove it down the throats of their supporters and their fans. And then when there are the few conservative celebrities out there, or even just kind of moderate who speak out on an issue, they get completely attacked and canceled, which I think is unfair. So, you would think the solution would be that these conservatives and moderates push back, speak out. And I guess at this point, they have to. And I do appreciate that. And another thing, too, is like, how much influence does a celebrity have? Because if you think back in 2016, how hard the celebrities like Beyonce and everyone, they were like hard pushing for the Democrats. And then, there we go. We got President Trump. So how much influence do they actually have? I mean, they're trendsetters and stuff. But yeah, I mean, we need people with big platforms to speak out on some of these issues again, and in a smart way, right? Because these celebrities, the ones who regurgitate the left's talking points, they can't really explain why they support
have no idea.
Things.
No idea what they're talking about. They're just out there doing the TikTok videos or whatever. By the way, nothing makes me happier than going back and looking at the concert you're talking about that Hillary Clinton had with like Jay-Z, Beyonce. They broke out everybody. They had, I think it was in like Philadelphia. It was supposed to be this great thing. Everyone's coming out to vote for Hillary, and then she lost. It was amazing. I loved it. All right. Real quick, we're going to take a very, very quick commercial break. Stay right there. We'll be right back with you. My name is Lara Trump, and I think Mike Lindell is a patriot. He is someone who loves this country, is willing to fight for this country. If you go to mypillow.com today and use promo code Trump, again, promo code Trump, you will not only save money, but you will help us continue this show and other shows like it and help us continue the fight for the future of America. If you're listening right now and you want to get these products, go to organicbodyessentials.com, use promo code Trump, save yourself a little bit of money and do something great for your skin. One way to protect your money is by investing in precious metals, gold and silver. That's always been a great way to make sure that you keep your money and you keep it safe. When you go to bh-pm.com, use promo code Trump. That way, if you decide you want to invest in gold and silver, you'll save yourself a little bit of money. If you want to get yourself some Kingdom Fuel protein powder as well, go to sherwood.tv. You can use promo code Trump when you check out for a little bit of savings, and you're going to get a delicious, great protein powder to fuel you through your day. All right, transableism, ladies, is something that maybe you haven't yet talked about, heard of, but if you don't already know what transableism is, these are able-bodied people who identify as a disabled individual, and oftentimes they would like a surgeon to cut off parts of their body, to sever their spinal cord in some cases so that they are rendered disabled. And obviously, this is a really tricky situation, and you hear something like this and you say, oh my gosh, that's crazy. Well, it's called body integrity identity disorder. And Jill, it has now been relabeled as transableism. And the change in label moves it from a diagnosable psychiatric condition to an advocacy term. And the reason this is important is because that ultimately could allow doctors to cut off limbs of people's bodies who identify this way in order to treat their patients. That's where we are.
where we're at is a horror show.
Yeah.
That's what this is. This is a sanctioned horror show, government sanctioned horror show, a medical institution horror show. It's a money grab. And I will, it's funny. I don't want to bring my husband into this, but I say that my husband is a plastic surgeon. He is the first person to tell people that the medical institutions now are completely compromised to accommodate money grabs.
Mm-hmm.
There's no more sense of do no harm. There's no more sense of let me evaluate this patient to see if they are psychologically compromised, if they have a psychiatric issue. Surgeons are supposed to do their proper diligence to evaluate patients, especially plastic surgeons, to determine if someone is psychologically sound to have a particular surgery. All of this is now out the window. It's horrific. It is damaging for not only the people undergoing this, but it's damaging for our future doctors, because if the medical institutions are endorsing this kind of thing, that means they're going to be teaching it in medical schools. That
Mm-hmm.
means anyone who was in a medical school is going to be completely brainwashed. I mean, this is an issue that extends far beyond our lifespan here.
Yeah. Stephanie, the thing that kind of caught my attention when I was reading about this is that they say people will go to these extreme lengths to disable themselves because it makes them feel like they are going to finally be in the bodies in which they were meant to be, right? So it sounds a lot like transgenderism, right? Where people are going to extreme lengths and also amputating certain limbs of their body, I don't know if you call it limb, but parts of their bodies are being manipulated, and certainly surgical procedures are being performed to make people feel more like they are in their own bodies. The crazy thing to me is that when they changed this from, it was called BIID, the Body Integrity Identity Disorder, I guess BID for short. It's been called that for a long time. Apparently this is something that's been around for quite a while, and it was a psychiatric disorder, and you would treat it as such. And now, because we are just kind of being accepting of everything, the furries and all of it, now this is a real problem. This is a real thing. And because people are changing the labeling of it, you really legitimately could have people who go out there and, I mean, think about someone who would just go in and say, like, cut off my arms or something. That is terrifying. That's crazy.
It's insane. And you just kind of have to feel bad for the people who would even want to go through with something like this. My question is, why can't you just love the body that God gave you? Why can't you just love yourself and, just kind of move on with your life? I don't understand why everyone's always trying to be something that they're not. Not everyone, but, some people are trying to be something that they're not. But yeah, it's a truly disturbing article. And I saw that. I'm like, this can't be real. I mean, I'm sure it's like a really tiny, tiny, small fraction of, the population that would be into something like that. But there needs to be medical professionals who will push back. And I'm assuming that they will. But you brought up something that I thought was interesting too. The transgender ideology, if you look at what's going on in Europe when it comes to young children, they're not pushing that on the kids. Why? Because socialized medicine. They don't want to have to pay for all those surgeries. So they're not hard pushing that there. So there is money to be made. There's an industry for this stuff, like Jillian had pointed out. And that's why moral ethics and stuff are just going out the window. So you always have to follow the money trail and see who would participate in something like this.
Mm-hmm. It's so fascinating, all of it. I honestly sometimes can't believe that this is where we are. But Jill, you brought up the money grab aspect of all of this. And the fact that your husband, who is a doctor, of course, is the first one to tell you that things have changed in the medical industry and the medical profession. I mean, medical industry, that in and of itself, that term is a bit of a problem. You don't have to look far. Think back to COVID. Think back to the way that doctors, these are legitimate medical doctors, were treated for even suggesting during COVID, maybe there are alternative ways to treat COVID. Maybe we should try X, Y, and Z. Some of these people lost their medical license for simply saying, well, it's supposed to be the practice of medicine. You have to try different things. You have to be willing to look at all possible solutions for something. there was so much of that during COVID, and we were so stringently told by especially the folks in the Biden administration, the answer and the only answer and the ways that we're going to get out of this is if everyone gets vaccinated. And it's honestly astonishing to see how that all played out. And I mean, I think it's all probably too fresh for all of us. We've all kind of been like through a trauma, so to speak. One day we're going to look back on that whole period of time and really be ashamed of the way we responded as an entire, country, but just so much to digest there. There's no doubt in my mind. Your husband, Jill, is exactly right. Before we go, I don't even know if you ladies knew that I wanted to talk about this, because I just found, speaking of like depressing, crazy things, Swedish death cleansing. Anybody ever heard of that? Sounds like a real upper, right? Okay, so apparently there's a new show coming out, and this is the title of the show: The Gentle Art of Swedish Death Cleansing. Sounds like a really good time. I got to tell you, the idea behind this, Jill, is that you kind of are supposed to think about cleaning out your space as though one day your loved ones will come through after you pass away and have to kind of like clean out your home or wherever you live. And you're supposed to say, well, do I really want my family members to have to deal with this sort of thing, or can I do without it for right now? Supposed to be rooted in minimalism, and I appreciate that, because I'm a real clean freak and a neat freak in of just general day-to-day life. But I don't know about the name Swedish death cleansing. It doesn't really do it for me. How about you?
I think the concept, I'm not mad at this concept at all. In fact, I think this is actually something very practical, that we should be having healthy conversations about death and what happens. And as my grandmother used to say, death, there's no way out of it. I mean, she literally used to say, kids, go around my house and see what you want so that when I die, you can have it. And we were like,
my God,
what you doing? And she goes, well, there's no way out of it. She used to say that. God rest her soul. But I saying this as someone who has been through a very tragic passing, with my mother 5 years ago, there is something to this where I think I don't like the name. I don't really like the name, the death cleansing. I think it's a marketing PR trick to get people to watch this show, quite frankly. But the need and the necessity to actually have consideration over how much you really are holding on to in this life is something that it is a gift, frankly, that you can give your children and your loved ones, because you can't take it with you. And I'm not opposed to the concept of this and the healthy conversation and the reality that reminds us that death is something you cannot get out of.
You can't get out of it. That's for sure. No, look, I do see how beneficial this could be. Certainly. I mean, anyone who has dealt with a loved one passing away, it's a lot. First of all, it's just such a traumatic situation in and of itself. But I think then on top of that, people feel guilty, I think, because you start going through things and you're like, well, I don't want to get rid of this because this person, obviously this meant something to them. And what do you do with it? How do you divvy it all up? It is a little bit stressful. Stephanie, just to end us on sort of a funny note, I was reading the comments on this article, and somebody said, walk around your house every morning and throw one thing away. Before you know it, your house will be empty and you'll be dead.
That's terrible. I haven't seen this show, and I don't have like a full understanding of it. It almost sounds like hoarders buried alive, but you're like just like getting ahead of it. But
trying to get ahead of the hoarding. Weird. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. And as you grow older and as you get older, you start to accumulate a lot of stuff, and, clutter can really impact your life. I mean, it's very stressful when you don't have a clean space, in my opinion. So, I mean, I don't have a problem with the concept of trying to downsize and giving away things that you're not using at the minute because somebody else might actually really need it. And so, yeah, I mean, I don't have a problem with that. The show concept is a little bit weird, though.
Like Jill's grandma. Maybe my kids would love this, by the way, because my son loves to go over to his friends' houses and like ask if he can take things. So Jill, my son would have fit right in there. It just your grandmother being like, whatever, you see something you want, just take it. That would have been a dream for him. So I'm gonna try and get him some friends that I guess just are trying to do a Swedish death cleanse at their house so that this will work out better for all of us.
Every time I visit my grandma, she gives me stuff. I'm wearing a ring that she gave me.
Oh, see?
She's pushing 90. So she's always like, oh, here, pick a piece of jewelry. And I'm like, okay, well, I'll take it. And I wear it and I love it. And I love my grandma. So
see, there you
lucky
go.
to still have her around.
That's the truth. And my husband's grandmother is still with us as well. My kids see her often. She's 96 years old. We call her Bobby, which is the Czech term for grandmother. Little information that no one knew, but here you are. Well, ladies, Jill and Stephanie, thank you so much for joining us here on the Right View Ladies Tea. To everybody at home, of course, if you enjoyed this, make sure you like, share, subscribe. And until next time, we will see you back here for more of the Right View. At the Right View, we're very proud of the fact that we are independent. We get to say everything that we think and everything that we feel. We have no woke companies guiding us or telling us what we can and cannot say. We are always going to shoot you straight and give you the facts as we know them. And that's why it's important to support independent outlets like The Right View. My name is Lara Trump, and I think Mike Lindell is a patriot. He is someone who loves this country, is willing to fight for this country. I love MyPillow because not only are MyPillows made in the USA by American workers, but they're great products, and they're so great that not only do I use them in my own bed at night, my children actually requested. My daughter the other day went to the closet and pulled out a MyPillow and said, this is the pillow that I want to sleep with. And I gotta tell you, she loves it and will have nothing to do with any other pillow. So it's a big hit around our house. My dogs also happen to sleep on MyPillow dog beds. So all around the Trump household, we're big fans. If you go to mypillow.com today and use promo code Trump, again, promo code Trump, you will not only save money, but you will help us continue this show and other shows like it and help us continue the fight for the future of America. Inflation has impacted all of our lives. I don't think anyone can go to the gas pump or the grocery store without noticing that it is a major factor. And unfortunately, it's not going anywhere. It doesn't seem like it's going down in the way that we would like it to. And one way to protect your money is by investing in precious metals, gold and silver. That's always been a great way to make sure that you keep your money and you keep it safe. When you go to bh-pm.com, use promo code Trump. That way, if you decide you want to invest in gold and silver, you'll save yourself a little bit of money. We live in a time that's very interesting. A lot of us out there feel like a lot of our rights are slipping away. And if you're like I am and you want to have the right to choose whether or not to have a vaccine, how to live your life freely, and you're looking for a great doctor, I've heard amazing things about Dr. Sherwood. He's somebody who you should really check out and check into, and it'll help support this program and keep us going. So go to sherwood.tv and use promo code Trump. Again, sherwood.tv and use promo code Trump. You can save yourself some money and help us keep our program going.
Ladies and gentlemen, this just in. We'll keep this a little secret between you and me and them and everybody. Whoa. The people that are actually at the tip of the spear, working directly with President Trump on a day-to-day basis to save this nation, they're all joining us on the Reawaken America tour. We have President Donald J. Trump's Chief of Staff, Kash Patel. We've got Peter Navarro's joined us on the tour. We have General Michael Flynn. We have Eric Trump. The people actually working at the tip of the spear with President Donald J. Trump to save America are joining us on the Reawaken America tour. Whoa. If word of this gets out, if the truth about election fraud, medical fraud, religious fraud, monetary fraud, and mainstream media gets out, it may just save the nation.
The Reawaken tour's coming to our place, hallelujah. It's gonna be lit. It's gonna be lit. Yeah, it's gonna be lit. Wide slam open.
And now, ladies and gentlemen, on May 12th and 13th, the Reawaken America Tour is coming to Miami, Florida, and to the beautiful Trump Doral Resort and Golf Course. Once again, ladies and gentlemen, the Reawaken America Tour is coming to Miami, Florida on May 12th and 13th. Get your sunscreen ready because General Flynn, Mike Lindell, Amanda Grace, Julie Green, Pastor Dave Scarlett, Dr. Judy Mikovits, Kash Patel, and Team America are taking the Reawaken America Tour to Trump Doral on May 12th and 13th. And then we're taking the God-fearing, revival-starting Reawaken America Tour into Sin City. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, we are taking the God-fearing Reawaken America Tour to Las Vegas, Nevada on August 25th and 26th. General Flynn and Team America will be taking the Reawaken America Tour to Las Vegas, Nevada. And the Patriots will be staying together at Trump International Hotel, Las Vegas, located at 2000 Fashion Show Drive, Las Vegas, Nevada, with zip code 89109 if you want to send them a letter. And yes, Alex Jones will be live and in person at the Reawaken America Tour, Las Vegas, Nevada. Once again, ladies and gentlemen, put it on your calendar. Get those tickets right now. August 25th and 26th. Eric Trump, Dr. Peter McCullough, Mel K, Dr. Stella Emanuel, Owen Schroyer, Alex Jones, Seth Holhouse, Pastor Mark Burns, Pastor Leon Benjamin. We're all taking the Reawaken America Tour to Las Vegas, Nevada, ladies and gentlemen. Las Vegas, Nevada. And that's going to be August 25th and 26th. Thus far on the Reawaken America Tour, we've featured Dr. Dave Martin, the late great Dr. Vladimir Zelenko, Charlie Kirk, Donna Clement Petruska, Sean Foyt, Karen Kingston, Chad Prather, Robert F. Kennedy Jr., Dr. Alan Keyes, Mickey Willis, Roger Stone, Dr. Richard Bartlett, and hundreds of patriotic speakers that you know, including Del Bigtree, Thomas Renz, Sidney Powell, Jim Caviezel, Donald J. Trump Jr., Peter Navarro, Klaus Schwab, Yuval Noah Harari, Bill Gates, and the godless globalists have their annual meeting called the World Economic Forum at Davos. But we that reject the Great Reset have the Reawaken America Tour coming to Miami, Florida, and coming to Las Vegas, Nevada. Get those tickets at time2freeamerica.com. That's time2freeamerica.com. We have scholarship pricing to make these events affordable for everybody. Every Reawaken America Tour event has sold out, so request those tickets today at time2freeamerica.com. That's time2freeamerica.com. Or for faster service, you can send me a personal text to 918-851-0102. That's 918-851-0102. And to be bilingually sensitive, that's 918-851-0102.
We hold these truths to be self-evident. All men and women created by you know the thing.
We will shut you down. We will cite you. And if we need to, we will arrest you and we will take you to jail. Period.
I wasn't thinking of the Bill of Rights when we did this.
But no amendment to the Constitution is absolute.
God actually spoke to me. He spoke about sacredness. He said to me, Kim, what I place in many, many people is sacred. And if anybody touches what is sacred to me, then it is the end for them. So what I've done in the United States of America is sacred. And there are people on every side that are trying to destroy what I deem sacred. And it's not going to happen.
This is the definition of criminal conspiracy, racketeering, and collusion. This is not a theory. This is evidence.
Because I have upheld this country to spread a light to the rest of the world. When you choose to go against the sacred thing that God puts into the very heart and the soil of this nation. This was sacred to God. Now is the time to act. This is exactly why I need some action from my people. Hello, everybody. It's an honor to be with you.